It's the best of the rest. Time to put them to the test. In case your memory is hazy, it's Blaxploitation, baby. This is Blax History Month, a 29-day celebration of Black exploitation films.
Let me get this out the way from the very beginning, so there's no misunderstanding. Blackenstein is terrible, and not in a so bad it's charming kind of way. It's just flat out terrible. There's probably several reasons for this, but let's just start with the whole reason it was made in the first place. Following the surprise success of Blackula, writer and producer Frank Selettri thought to himself, if a low-budget Black Dracula ripoff can make that much bank, then surely a Black Frankenstein can do the same. In fact, the alternate name for Blackenstein was literally Black Frankenstein. Only Frank completely overlooked the fact that Blackula had a bunch of charm, a highly accomplished stage actor as its star, and a unique, well-written and well-shot story, which Blackenstein has none of. I'm sure by now everybody knows the story of Frankenstein, or if not, are at the very least familiar with the scenes from the 1931 Universal film. As the story goes, a scientist named Dr. Frankenstein and his assistant stitch together body parts and organs to reanimate and create a quote, monster. The experiment is a success, but not everything goes well once Frankenstein's monster is up and moving around. That's the short version of the story, and if I have to give Blackenstein props for anything, it's that they at least made an attempt to tell a different story. In Blackenstein, a woman named Winifred Walker, played by Ivory Stone, goes to a doctor named simply Dr. Stein, played by John Hart, for help with her boyfriend who lost both arms and legs in the Vietnam War. You might be asking yourself, exactly what the hell can this guy do with that? But in sort of a clever twist, this Dr. Stein is somewhat of a good guy. He even won a Nobel Prize because he came up with a way to manipulate DNA to actually help people. There's all kinds of weird experiments going on at this dude's lab. Like this one woman who he de-aged from 95 years old to about I guess 50 something? She still looks pretty old, but hey, at least she seems happy with the results. Then there's this guy who lost a leg, but my man Stein grew it back with some minor complications.
Now, Winifred.
I think I could live with that. I would just tell the ladies that it's stretch marks. All of this leads to Winifred, somewhat of a scientist herself, working side by side with Stein to come up with a DNA serum to help her boyfriend Eddie, played by only-time actor Joe Dussault, grow all of his limbs back. There's just one problem. Halfway through the treatments, Malcolm, Dr. Stein's assistant, falls for Winifred, and when she doesn't play fair, he sabotages the experiments, turning Eddie into a giant lumbering monster. A Blackenstein, if you will. When I first watched this movie, I was downright confused because there were scenes when the monster would be out and about killing people. But then there are scenes where he's back at the lab, just chilling. Then after some research, I realized that the monster only goes out at night and then returns in the morning without anybody noticing. So like your grandmother might say, the monster got plenty sense. It's nearly impossible to tell this in the movie with the way that it's edited. I do give the movie props for changing the Frankenstein formula though, because this monster doesn't just kill people, he eats them also. So he's more of a zombie than a Frankenstein. Being a zombie kind of makes more sense because he mindlessly attacks people with no rhyme or reason. Except for that one guy at the hospital who made fun of him for not having arms, he definitely targeted that guy and took a little souvenir. I know laying it out like this makes it sound like the movie isn't that terrible, but the devil is in the details, you see. Right from the start, the problems show their face, and it's ugly. Because why is Eddie fully dressed with a pressed suit, with a fresh new flat top afro and shiny shoes if he was half naked and bedridden in the previous scene? Did the DNA grow him clothes too? Then there's the acting. Oh boy, the acting. You could build a house with how wooden this acting is. I can give Joe Dussault, who plays the monster and Eddie, a pass because he wasn't an actor. He only got this gig because he was associated with Frank Selettri. His part was doomed from the start.
Winifred, why are you here? Can I have some ice cream?
What the hell did you say?
Can I have some ice cream?
Now, tell me once again, Eddie, what do you feel?
That was my middle finger.
That's correct.
That's good, doctor.
He sounded like a robotic monster before he even became one. But it feels like everybody else didn't want to be involved with this. Or another way to look at it is that they had no idea what kind of movie they were filming. What I mean by that is, Blackenstein has no structure. It's edited in a way to make it seem like things just happen. I can only imagine what it was like to film it, so the actors most likely had no context on how they were supposed to react in certain scenes. Like in a scene where it feels like Dr. Stein is suspicious about something. It starts out tense, but then...
Winifred, I'd like to see you in the laboratory, please.
Nothing comes from this scene, and there's no follow-up. This is Blackenstein in a nutshell. It's kind of ironic actually, because there's two versions of Blackenstein. A theatrical one, which has pretty decent quality, and a video version, which does not. The version I got for this review was both versions combined into one, and you can so obviously tell which one is which that they felt the need to put a disclaimer at the beginning. That's why some of the footage looks old and grainy, and some of it looks cleaner. They literally stitched and Frankenstein this movie together to give us what we have today. I can go on all day about Blackenstein. The music doesn't match what's happening on the screen. The makeup for the monster changes based on which version of the movie is happening at the time. It has a throwaway scene with a comedian that has nothing to do with the movie. The monster's sound effects and groans are just looped throughout the entire movie, never changing. It's edited poorly. I can go all day with this. Blackenstein is one of those movies you watch to make fun of, under the influence or not. If you must watch it, make sure you do it with a group of people who also know how terrible it is from the start. That's about the only way to enjoy it.